So, are all mega talented musicians jerks? Well, Hollywood apparently thinks so, and that trope is definitely well represented in one of my favorite movies from the 90s, The Commitments. First off, can I tell you just how much I love that the captions include the song lyrics? That isn't always the case, so yeah, I was genuinely very pleasantly surprised at that. So yes, this 1991 movie makes me feel all nostalgic for that time in my life. I was like 3 years out of high school and I had no idea what to do with myself. So a movie about a bunch of other young adults who were likewise figuring out life as they went along was very appealing to me. And the soundtracks, wow. Now, soul is not my music genre of choice. I'm more of a Duran Duran, Gin Blossoms, Matt Nathanson kind of guy, but the songs in this movie really blew me away. And you know, I have an appreciation for music. I played violin. I was in a couple of bands. I did performance choir. So this film took me right back to that feeling of wanting to make it as a musician, as a singer in particular. So as far as the movie itself, the pacing of this movie is perfect in my opinion. And there's a lot of humor and it's well interlaced with the raw energy of the performance segments. And overall, there's just an emotional honesty in both the musical performances and the representation of the relationships of the members of the band. It all works together in harmony. I don't feel like any particular scene like overstays its welcome. Some of my favorite scenes, and there were so many, there's that old man towards the beginning at the wedding who says, "Fuck off" to the kid who tripped over his feet and woke him up from his nap. And then, of course, there is the "Who are your influences" segment.
I've really done my best. Powder, paint and lipstick, the latest Paris dress. Papa Dumba Dumba, hey Papa Joe, got the nice Papa Joe, hey Papa Joe, yeah, hey Papa Joe.
The look on Jimmy Rabbit's face there, that's pretty much how I felt watching Diner last week before. Yeah. And the scene of kids just throwing rocks through random windows in what appears to be a warehousing maybe district. I don't know. I realize that, you know, it's working class Dublin and there might not be a lot to do, but wow, they're just, yeah, going for it. Let's just break all these windows and maybe set fires. We're not sure who set the fire that is being shown in that clip, but yeah, why not? So yeah, there are going to be some spoilers for a 33-year-old movie. Welcome, you're late to the party. So the summary is basically kids form a band because there's not a lot to do otherwise except start fires and throw rocks through windows, sleep with each other, and then break up after a very short stint of local fame. Now, there are tons of recap sites you can visit if you want to detail blow by blow. I'm assuming that you've probably seen this movie, which is why you clicked on the video. So I'm just going to talk about what stood out to me about the movie that makes it watchable, that are good reasons to watch. So the movie is based on the novel of the same name by author Roddy Doyle, and I'm not going to talk too much about adaptation as that's Dominic Noble's purview, and you should go watch him if you haven't already. Suffice to say, the main character in the movie, Jimmy Rabbit, is really much more of a secondary character in the book. Now, I can't be 100% certain of that, as I couldn't finish the book because of how the author chose to write exactly as people speak, and it looks something like this. Yeah, I couldn't make it through a lot of that, too much of that. So I didn't finish the book. One of the more intriguing characters, because he's sort of a mystery wrapped in an enigma kind of guy, is Joey the Lips Fagan, who just appears after people were, you know, auditioning, wanting to be part of the band. And at one point he shows up, he read the same ad in the paper everybody else had. And he was 100% looking to join and kind of be the band's almost spiritual mentor. This guy, this character, Joey Fagan, is slightly menacing. I have no problem at all imagining him as a cult leader. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. This scene here, I think, shows that he definitely has a temper, even when he's telling you that he doesn't have a temper.
Joseph Fagan. Joey the Lips Fagan.
And I'm Jimmy the Bollocks Rabbit.
I earned my name for my horn playing. What you earn yours for?
Don't get snotty with me, son.
I get snotty with no man.
And it's funny because you're shown examples throughout the whole movie of his ability to just charm anybody, like his effect on Jimmy's parents when he's telling Jimmy's dad, who is a huge Elvis fan, right, about the time Elvis's dad threw up in Joey the Lips Fagan's trumpet, and that Elvis cleaned it up and said, "Please forgive my daddy." And of course, Jimmy Rabbit's dad is just like, "Oh, wow, this guy is amazing." The other display of cult leader-like behavior is he works his way through all the female backup singers. Now, we only see him in bed with Bernie. We don't know that he's actually slept with the other two, but it's heavily inferred that he has. And they end up being very jealous with each other about him. He really feels like he can just walk into a room and assume control of that room without too many people giving him, any pushback. Another trope that's very well represented is the musician who is just too full of himself that he's going to get in his way if he doesn't learn how to tone down his arrogance. And that's Declan, who is the lead singer, becomes the lead singer for the Commitments. And the thing is, I keep forgetting and then relearning that the actor who plays Declan, the actor's name is Andrew Strong, that's him singing in the film. In fact, I think all of them are actually musically accomplished and playing their own instruments and singing in the film. And Andrew was only 16 when they were filming, and since then he's toured with like the Rolling Stones and a bunch of real popular groups. The kid is amazing. His voice is amazing, and the character's voice is amazing, and the character knows that. He really does play it off so well. And I don't know maybe how much of that has to do with the fact that he is 16 and so is given over just naturally to that brashness that a 16-year-old would have, that self-assuredness, cockiness, that arrogance. But yeah, he is pitch perfect in the role. It's funny because throughout the movie, there's lots of hints that he's not just a one-trick pony either. Like you'll see scenes of him where he's playing the piano player's piano. And at one point we see him behind the drum kit and just going. He knows how to play drums, which I think is neat. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to put those scenes in the movie. And doing that gives his character a lot more depth. I don't just write him off as a smug asshole. He's still an asshole and he's a pig, but he really is that good. And they're all great. And I love movies like this where the actors on screen are actually capable of doing, if not necessarily doing, what they're portraying. I want to swing back to the soundtrack real quick. Again, soul is not my musical genre that I prefer to listen to, but I like all of the versions of these staple songs that are on this soundtrack. I don't particularly care for Try Little Tenderness, but I like the movie soundtrack version of it. I will listen to that. Destination Anywhere is definitely my favorite single of the album. And that scene where they all start spontaneously singing it together.
Said to the man at the railroad station, I want a ticket just for one. He said, well, if you insist, but where you wanna go, miss? Destination anywhere. East or west, I don't care. You see, my baby don't love me no more. If this old world ain't got no back door.
Gives me chills every time I see it. And that is, I think, where they become the Commitments. That's where they become a band, is when they sing that song together on the train. And through all of it, all the drama, there is a lot of heart in this movie. Like there's a particular scene where they're waiting at the hospital to see if their bassist Derek is okay after his electrical shock during their performance at the community center, which is that's a hilarious segment. I love that. But you can see right here where they're just waiting there in the hospital. Almost all of them are there. And then when he comes down the hallway, he's being wheeled and out in a wheelchair, and they all run down the hall to see him, and they're like excited that he's okay, and they do the whole, pushing him at top speed and down the hall in the lobby there in the wheelchair, and they're just having fun, and they're just happy that their friend is okay. And I love that. Warms the cockles of my heart every time. So the band eventually has a performance that gets them positive press in the newspaper, and that is enough for Joey the Lips Fagan, to say, okay, well, look, Wilson Pickett is in town. He's on a world tour, and he is in Dublin tonight. I will show him this article, and I will get him to come to our performance and then jam with us after. Because that has come up before in the movie where Joey, amongst the people he says he has played with, Wilson Pickett comes up. And so Jimmy is really stoked. He's made a contact with an A&R representative for a label that's going to come to the performance. And he's told the media that Wilson Pickett is going to be there. And so a lot is riding on this concert. And again, spoilers for a 33-year-old movie, but of course we all know how this is going to end, right? Wilson Pickett, in fact, does not show up. And by this point, the tensions in the band are just thick. The girls aren't getting along because they're all pissed off. Each of them have been with the trumpeter, Joey. Everyone is sick of Declan, the lead singer's bullshit and his attitude, and he's making noises that, another band has approached him to be their singer, and then they can pay him because, no one at the Commitments has been paid for anything yet. And they are just literally almost in fisticuffs between the time they do their performance and they leave stage, they go off stage, and then they're getting ready to go do their encore, and they're just at each other's throats, and Jimmy has to come in there and calm them down and say, are you gonna frickin' go out and do an encore or what? And he wants them to do that because he's trying to stall to give time for Wilson Pickett to show up, because Wilson Pickett's concert ended like an hour ago and he's nowhere to be seen. And so they all go back out there and they pretend and they get through it, and they do their encore, and they come back, and for maybe 30 seconds it's fine, and then they're all in each other's faces. The girls are screaming at each other, the guys are screaming at each other. Declan leaves and goes outside to kind of get away from it, and then a bunch of girls come up asking him his autograph, and then the psycho drummer Micah comes out and starts giving Declan crap for, oh yeah, big man gonna sign all the young girls' autographs and blah blah blah. You just think you're better than all of us. And Declan, I think Declan threw a punch, and then Micah just beat the crap out of him. Like, I'm surprised he wasn't hospitalized after it. So everything goes to hell, and Jimmy sees that and like pulls Micah off of Declan, and then one of the girls, Natalie, yells at him from up above saying, hey, everyone's killing each other up here, you gotta come back. So he goes back up there and sees everybody like literally and just wrestling around and pushing and shoving and hollering, and he's all, forget it, you all suck. He just can't deal with it anymore, and it hurts because they had made it. They just didn't know it, and they self-destructed before they learned that they had made it. They were getting a record deal. They were going to go into a proper studio and make a record. God, that was frustrating the first time I watched it. So, it's sad that they didn't have superstardom, that they didn't get their record deal, that they all ended up going their separate ways. But it feels like that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie really is that Jimmy had shown everyone who had joined that band that there was just more to life than just slogging through it. That the real message of the Commitments and movies like it is that it's important to make room for life to be magical and to take whatever skills, whatever gifts or talents that you might have, and to be open to using them and using them publicly, right? In a way that allows for other people with maybe appreciation for your gifts or gifts of their own that would work well with yours to come together. And then there's magic that is created for even more people through sharing those gifts. Because every one of the band members came through this experience a changed person. All of them did some growing, even Declan, who did eventually get his recording contract and was, a huge asshole. But that wouldn't have happened if Jimmy hadn't found him and convinced him that he should be their lead singer. He was just a guy who could sing really well, but no one knew it until Jimmy spotted him at a wedding at the beginning of the movie. All the rest of the band come out the other side of this experience more confident and more able to go after what they want in life with fewer self-imposed limitations, I guess. The one thing that the movie did narratively that I didn't like is that as Jimmy is walking God knows where after the failed show, the club is closed for the evening. He's walking along by himself and a limo slows down next to him and says, "Hey, do you know where such and such a club is?" And Jimmy's all, "Yeah, well, it's back that way, but they're closed now." And the limo driver turns over his shoulder and says, "Back to the hotel, Mr. Pickett," and then drives on. And so, yeah, Wilson Pickett was supposed to show up and he got delayed. I don't like it because for me, I feel like it's a better story if it's up to the viewer whether or not Joey was lying about knowing Wilson Pickett and whether Wilson Pickett was supposed to show up there. For me, it's almost like twisting the knife. Poor Jimmy, right? Bad enough that he got them a record deal and it all fell apart as he was finalizing the record deal, but then to have it confirmed that Wilson Pickett was going to be there and that Joey wasn't lying about knowing him and his relationship with him. Man, that's just really twisting the knife in there for old Jimmy Rabbit. All in all, I love this movie, if you couldn't tell. The only other movie that gives me the same kind of feels is That Thing You Do. Very similar story lines, very similar, ups and downs and dramatic reveals and growth and all of that. So if you have seen That Thing You Do, but you've never seen The Commitments, I feel so very sure that you will love The Commitments if you loved That Thing You Do. And I would highly recommend you go seek it out. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everybody who commented on my movie review of Diner last week. It was fun getting your comments and talking with you. So thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to, do all the like, subscribe stuff so that you can get to see more of these as I do them. And that's it for this time. Until next time, I'm Ken. You take care.